Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a recent, and I have to say, a very specific technical announcement from the Pi Network ecosystem. And while it might sound like a pretty minor update on the surface, just a new developer library, the strategic implications here are, well, they're absolutely huge. Our source material is a developer announcement that came out on January 9th, 2026. And it's really, it's basically a targeted directive aimed right at the global community of application builders.
It's more than just an aggressive move, though. It's a very strategically focused one. You see, the network isn't introducing some brand new consensus mechanism or an obscure, blockchain upgrade. They are tackling the absolute biggest point of friction in building a viable ecosystem.
Which is?
Payment integration, always. Historically, integrating any novel cryptocurrency payment gateway is the most complex, it's the most time-consuming, and frankly, the most security-critical task a developer faces.
And that leads us right to the core claim, the thing that really grabbed everyone's attention.
The big headline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A new developer library that promises, and get this, to integrate Pi payments into an application in the staggeringly short time of under 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes. That's less time than it takes to download and install a major software update on your computer. It promises to move this entire process, full functional cryptocurrency payment capabilities from the realm of specialized multi-day engineering projects into a simple task you could do during a coffee break.
And it's the audacity of that time frame that really demands we do this deep dive. Payment integration with any decentralized system, it's just notorious for its complexity. You have to handle everything from secure key management, real-time transaction verification across systems that might not even be talking to each other directly, ensuring low network latency for a good user experience, and, this is the crucial part, linking a user's application identity to their secure, decentralized digital wallet.
That whole chain of events.
Right, and if that entire multi-step process can genuinely be reduced to 600 seconds, well, that represents a monumental achievement in abstracting away complexity for the developer.
So our mission today for you, the curious learner, is to go beyond that headline. This development isn't just a technical footnote. No, it's a strategic declaration of war against complexity, and it's designed to turbocharge the growth of their utility-driven ecosystem. So we have to explore what technical architecture actually allows for this kind of dramatic time reduction. And then we need to pivot to the profound why is this speed an existential necessity for their goal of building real-world utility?
When you study platform adoption, it doesn't matter what it is. We could be talking about the early days of mobile app stores, major cloud services, any open source ecosystem. The rate of growth is almost perfectly, and I mean perfectly, inversely correlated with the amount of friction placed on the developer.
The easier it is, the faster you grow.
It's that simple. So if the network can authentically transform this nightmare of secure payment integration into a 10-minute setup, they are radically lowering the barrier to entry. This isn't just a technical fix. It's an economic stimulus for the entire application community.
So we need to dissect exactly what they bundled together.
And what complexity they abstracted away to make that 10-minute promise actually hold true.
Let's start with that central metric then.
Yeah.
Under 10 minutes. The sheer aggressiveness of the claim, right?
No.
The title is Integrate Pi Payments in Pi Apps in Under 10 Minutes with New Pi Library. It's such a powerful marketing and development statement. And it was strategically released right at the beginning of 2026, and it came with that strong, momentum-driven call to action. It's time to build. The
timing is so critical here. It sets the tone for the entire year. It signals that the network's priority is immediate, rapid application deployment. But let's analyze the time saving itself as a core utility. For any developer or, a development team, time is their most precious and their most limited resource. Every single hour they spend on infrastructural, plumbing-like payment integration is an hour that they cannot spend on core product features or user experience or marketing.
I really want to focus on the economic impact of that time saving. When you integrate a complex third-party system, doesn't matter if it's a traditional credit card gateway or the new crypto solution, you're budgeting not just hours, but often days. Several days.
Oh, easily.
And that time is just sunk into these administrative setup tasks. You're securing API keys, you're configuring webhooks for asynchronous callbacks,
right,
setting up secure environmental variables, testing across multiple environments, and this is inevitable, hours and hours of debugging the connection between the front end and the server logic.
And you're paying for that time. I mean, let's be blunt. If you have a senior backend engineer billing at a high hourly rate, turning a 20-hour integration job into a 10-minute setup job, well, that results in thousands of dollars in labor cost savings per project.
Per project.
And that's before you even account for the soft cost of project delays. The developer isn't just saving time, they are saving capital, and they're accelerating their time to market.
That's the really intriguing angle for our learner audience, for anyone interested in efficiency and business strategy. Reducing development friction like this, it just fundamentally changes the risk-reward calculation.
It does.
If the integration is quick, the financial commitment to just trying it out is minimal. It's almost zero. And the source material frames this perfectly. It emphasizes, and I'm quoting here, the library allows developers to integrate Pi payments into their apps in under 10 minutes. It's an explicit performance guarantee.
And this specific time reduction is a huge psychological and operational shift, especially for prototyping. Think about it. When an integration takes days, it requires approval, it requires resource allocation, serious planning. It moves from being an experiment into a serious commitment.
That becomes a line item into the budget.
Exactly. But when it takes 10 minutes, developers are far more likely to engage in what we call impulse development.
Impulse development, I like that.
Yeah. Trying it on a weekend, integrating it into a hackathon project, or just quickly testing the viability of Pi payments on an existing application they already have. This dramatically increases the number of touch points between the currency and real-world utility, which in turn leads to a much faster emergence of successful production-ready applications.
But the question remains, how? I mean, it can't just be simplified documentation. This promise suggests a revolutionary abstraction of complexity. So what is the technical magic trick that reduces days of work into just a few minutes?
Well, the announcement is pretty clear that the solution is comprehensive bundling. The speed is achieved by combining the two major components that traditionally require independent configuration and then linking them together.
Okay.
They specifically combined the Pi SDK, the software development kit, which handles the user-facing side, with the backend APIs, the application programming interfaces, which handle the secure server logic. And they put them into one seamless package.
Okay, so help me understand the implication of this single, streamlined setup. Because, I mean, given the historical difficulty of aligning SDKs and APIs across different platforms, how precisely has Pi Network managed to guarantee compatibility right out of the box? And what potential trade-offs might developers face with that level of abstraction?
That's an excellent and a very critical question. The guarantee of compatibility comes from eliminating custom middleware. In a traditional setup, the developer has to write what's called glue code. It's the code that ensures the payment data generated by the front end via the SDK is securely and correctly interpreted and then processed by the back end, which is using the API.
And that glue code is where all the problems happen.
It's where 90% of integration bugs and security holes originate, yes.
So by bundling them, Pi Network is guaranteeing that the internal handshake between those components is already pre-configured and, more importantly, proven to be secure. They're taking away the developer's responsibility for creating that connection logic.
Precisely. They are solving the complexity of manual configuration, and they're guaranteeing the integrity of the payment flow between the user interface and the blockchain verification stage. The streamlined approach, it handles the secure routing, the cryptographic signing of transaction requests, and the real-time verification using built-in, pre-tested logic.
So the network is essentially just taking over all the complex plumbing. All the security and transaction plumbing, as you put it.
That's it. And this frees the developer to install the library, call a couple of standardized functions, and immediately transition to focusing on their application's specific user experience.
The fun part.
The creative problem-solving part, rather than wrestling with infrastructure setup.
Okay, so let's dedicate some serious time to that technical architecture. I think understanding the functions of the bundled SDK and APIs is really key to appreciating this achievement, and also, as you said, the necessary trade-offs.
Absolutely.
Because we're really talking about three distinct phases in any payment, right? You've got the user interface, the secure server process, and then the final blockchain confirmation. And in a decentralized environment, making sure all three of those are secure and fast is just a monumental engineering task.
It is. So let's look closer at the role of the bundle.
Okay, let's start with the SDK, the software development kit.
Yeah.
What specific payment security tasks does this front-end component handle that saves the developer so much time?
The Pi SDK is essentially the user-facing toolbox. Its primary time-saving function is abstracting away the secure, asynchronous connection to the user's wallet. When a developer builds a pay button, they don't want to worry about cross-site scripting vulnerabilities or, God forbid, exposing user keys.
No.
The SDK handles that secure prompt, it's likely a standardized modal or a redirection, that asks the user to approve the transaction using their secure Pi Wallet credentials. By standardizing this process, the developer doesn't need to write any custom code for key management or signature generation on the client side.
Which is a huge security risk, just gone.
Mitigated immediately.
Sure.
It focuses entirely on providing a robust, high-trust user experience.
So the developer just calls a function like initiate payment, and the SDK handles that secure handoff to the wallet. Is that right? That's a massive security abstraction.
It is. Now contrast that with the backend APIs, the application programming interfaces. If the SDK is the secure interface, the API is the secure gatekeeper.
Yeah.
This is where the application's server logic lives.
Right. The brains of the operation.
Exactly. The API's time-saving functions center on managing the transaction lifecycle and verification. So when the wallet confirms the payment, the API receives that notification, it verifies the transaction's validity directly against the Pi blockchain, and then it logs the finality before the application does anything else.
Before it releases the digital item or activates a service?
Exactly. And that security check on the back end is paramount. If a developer had to code that verification logic themselves, they would need deep knowledge of the network's transaction structure, how to query the blockchain nodes, how to handle edge cases like transaction failures or delays.
All the stuff you don't want to think about.
All the stuff you don't want to think about. By bundling them, the APIs provide pre-written, highly optimized functions for these tasks. Think of the complex process of token management or session authentication. When the front end initiates a request, the bundle library ensures that the necessary cryptographic tokens are passed securely and verified instantly by the backend component.
Which eliminates hours of developer time spent configuring authorization headers or setting up token expiration logic or integrating some other third-party authentication server.
Right. This guarantees that only valid confirmed transactions can ever lead to service delivery.
Let's go back to the elimination of custom middleware, as you mentioned. This really does seem to be where the real technical breakthrough is. So what kind of complex code is the developer not writing anymore?
They are avoiding writing what we call asynchronous logic handling. Payments, especially crypto payments, are rarely instantaneous. A user initiates a transaction, and the server has to wait for network confirmation. This means the developer usually has to set up webhooks. These are endpoints that the network calls back when the transaction status changes.
Okay, I see.
So they have to code the logic to listen for these webhooks, ensure the callback is legitimate, not some fraudulent injection, and then update the user's application state accordingly.
Which sounds complicated.
It is. By integrating the SDK and the API into a single library, the network standardizes and manages this whole asynchronous communication channel internally. It effectively guarantees that the front end only displays success after the backend API has received and verified the final confirmation webhook.
Wow. That dramatically simplifies error handling, too. Instead of troubleshooting 100 possible network or middleware errors, the developer is probably just dealing with a standardized, small set of high-level error codes that the library gives them.
Absolutely. The technical complexity shifts from low-level debugging of compatibility issues to high-level integration of business logic. And that is the very definition of a significant barrier reduction. And the source material emphasizes this. It says this reduction lowers the barrier for developers to experiment, prototype, and deploy Pi payments faster. It democratizes the ability to create secure transactional applications.
And the lower the cost, in both time and effort, the broader the participation. This allows, hobbyists, academics, small non-funded teams to try building things that they otherwise couldn't afford to staff with senior security engineers.
Precisely. And this leads us directly back to the strategic necessity of it all. Payments are flagged in the source as a core dependency for real-world applications with real utility using Pi.
A core dependency.
Yes. This isn't just a technical convenience, it's the necessary foundation. If the foundation is brittle or slow or difficult to build, the entire structure of the utility ecosystem fails.
So by labeling payments as the core dependency, the network is basically prioritizing functional commerce over everything else. They're saying, we have to solve a money transmission problem first, and we have to make it trivial before we can expect any widespread, diverse utility apps to actually emerge.
This is a highly pragmatic realization, a decentralized network that aspires to handle real-world transactions. Buying coffee, paying for digital services, selling items. It simply cannot tolerate a cumbersome or insecure payment integration process. This streamlined library is the technical manifestation of that strategic priority. It transforms the core dependency from a development challenge into a standardized, easy-to-use component,
So developers can use their finite capacity for creativity and user interface design.
rather than infrastructure configuration.
Yes. Okay, so let's transition from the technical architecture to the overarching goals. This 10-minute promise is so clearly designed to serve the network's long-term strategic vision. The announcement says the simplification of payment integration aligns with Pi's longer-term strategy to strengthen and expand Pi's utility-driven ecosystem. But let's define what utility actually means here beyond just moving money around.
That's a great question. Utility, in this context, it has to be defined by the quality of the applications that get built. The source itself defines success using three crucial adjectives. It says apps need to be practical, usable, and ready for real-world adoption.
Okay, let's analyze each of those. What does practical really mean for a decentralized application?
Practical means the application solves a genuine day-to-day need that goes beyond just speculative trading or, complex DeFi mechanisms.
So real-life stuff.
Real-life stuff. It could be a simple marketplace for physical goods, a local service booking app, a content platform that requires micropayments. It has to be something that saves the user time or money in their daily life. And this integration library makes it practical for developers to build these simple commercial apps very, very quickly.
And usable. I mean, that speaks directly to the user experience, which, let's be honest, is often the first casualty of complex crypto integration.
Oh, absolutely. Usable means the interface is seamless, fast, and reliable. The payment flow has to be intuitive. It has to be comparable to using a major centralized service like PayPal or Stripe.
If it's not, people just won't use it.
Exactly. If a user clicks pay and the transaction confirmation takes 30 seconds or the screen freezes, that app is not usable. End of story. Because this 10-minute library handles the secure wallet connection and the asynchronous confirmation, it guarantees a standardized, reliable payment sequence, which drastically improves that usability metric right out of the box.
Okay, and finally, ready for real-world adoption. This has to imply scalability and robustness, right? Especially when you're dealing with high transaction volume.
Precisely. Real-world adoption means the application can handle mass usage without crashing or failing to confirm transactions. In the context of a new currency, the library's guaranteed, pre-tested architecture means that when a developer deploys their app, they can trust the payment logic is already stress-tested.
So they don't have to spend months hardening their own custom middleware logic against concurrency issues or security threats.
Right. And that accelerates their readiness for production use and for mass market entry.
This strategic move also has a direct impact on developer resource allocation, what we can call the developer time shift. We're seeing a very deliberate reallocation of effort here. The time they save on setup is time they gain for, and I quote, creating and improving actual products for users.
Think about the development budget. If a company used to dedicate a huge portion of its engineering talent and budget to backend security and network integration, they can now reallocate those funds and those people.
To what?
To hiring user interface designers, product managers, or market strategists. This means the ecosystem will inherently start to gravitate toward higher quality, better design, and better marketed applications.
Because the network has effectively subsidized the infrastructure cost by making it nearly free in terms of labor.
Exactly. And the network's long-term commitment to utility is also confirmed by their reference to the previous year's review.
All right, a look back at 2025. Open network, real-world utility, and an expansive ecosystem.
It confirms that this focus isn't just a flash in the pan. It's a sustained, multi-year strategic mandate. It shows continuity. They identified utility as a sustained goal, and this 10-minute library is the tactical deployment they need to achieve that strategic mandate in 2026.
Okay, let's talk about the competitive landscape here for a second. We often say this is a game changer within the crypto space. But how does this 10-minute promise compare to integrating a major centralized processor like a Stripe or a PayPal?
That comparison is crucial for understanding the magnitude of this claim. Traditional processors like Stripe, they have fantastic documentation, great APIs, and for simple payments, integration can often be done relatively quickly, maybe a few hours. However, integrating crypto has always been more complicated, even with dedicated services. They involve managing wallets, on-chain verification, currency conversion logic.
A whole other layer of complexity.
It is. Pi Network is aiming to beat the complexity of decentralized payments while at the same time matching the time to integration of the most frictionless centralized players. And if they succeed, they effectively remove the primary efficiency argument that developers use to choose centralized solutions over decentralized ones.
That makes that phrase in the announcement and beyond even more significant. They encourage building apps and utilities for users across the Pi ecosystem and beyond. What does that external reach really imply?
It's future-proofing and it's ambition. Internal growth is necessary, but external reach is validation. And beyond suggests they are preparing developers to integrate Pi payments into existing large-scale e-commerce platforms or content management systems or enterprise tools that might operate entirely outside the core Pi ecosystem.
So an existing small business using, say, Shopify might be incentivized to add Pi as a payment option if it's this easy.
Exactly, and that would dramatically expand the currency's real-world acceptance.
The ease of prototyping also accelerates that iterative process we mentioned earlier. This lower friction means developers can afford to fail faster. And in development, failure is just crucial data.
Precisely. We need this rapid evolutionary pressure. If the time cost of integrating payments is negligible, a developer can spend a weekend building and testing a minimal viable product, an MVP, get user feedback, decide the core idea is flawed, and then pivot entirely within a week.
Without having sunk weeks of engineering time into infrastructure.
Yes. This Darwinian selection process guarantees that the apps that actually emerge are the most robust market-fit applications, which accelerates the maturity of the entire ecosystem. That 10-minute metric is a catalyst for application evolution.
Okay, so now we get into the specifics that truly matter to the developer community, the supported technology stacks. Because the promise of a 10-minute integration is completely meaningless if it only works on some obscure platform nobody uses.
Right.
And the network seems to have been very strategic here, aiming for maximum immediate usability.
Oh, they absolutely prioritized immediate widespread adoption. The announcement states the initial release was designed to be immediately usable for many existing apps by supporting the most commonly used, high-leverage technology stacks in modern web development.
All right, let's break down their choices, starting with the front end, the foundational languages and libraries. They detail support for JavaScript and React.
These choices are just brilliant for market coverage.
Yeah.
JavaScript is the fundamental language of the web. Supporting vanilla JavaScript means that almost any web application, regardless of its underlying framework, can potentially integrate this payment library.
It's the highest reach language in the world.
It is, and then there's React. As the dominant component-based framework for user interfaces today, React powers huge swaths of consumer-facing applications, from social media to internal enterprise tools.
So by targeting React specifically, they're ensuring that developers who use modern component architecture have a smooth experience.
Exactly. And that architecture is essential for building reusable, maintainable, and scalable UIs. The Pi Network React SDK is likely packaged as a set of pre-built components that handle the payment modal, the state management, the interaction feedback.
So a developer could just drop a Pi payment button component right into their app.
That's the idea. Reducing coding time to almost zero for the front-end interface. This eliminates the need for developers to worry about styling or responsive design or maintaining the UI state during an asynchronous transaction. It just maximizes immediate market penetration into the professional developer landscape.
That covers the client-side user experience extremely well. Now let's look at the server side, the backend, where all the security and processing happens. They support Next.js and Ruby on Rails. This is an interesting contrast of philosophies.
It is, and it shows they really understand different developer personas. Next.js is the choice for modern, performance-focused applications. It's a React framework, yes, but its power comes from enabling server-side rendering, or SSR, and static site generation, SSG.
Which means lightning-fast load times and excellent SEO.
Exactly. So if you're building a high-volume, global e-commerce platform where performance and SEO are mission-critical, Next.js is often the go-to choice.
So the Next.js integration guide would focus on teaching developers how to properly integrate the Pi APIs within Next.js's serverless functions, or API routes.
That's right. This ensures that the payment verification happens securely on the server side, away from the user's browser. leveraging that Next.js architecture for speed and security. It targets developers building modern, high-performance web applications that are designed for scale.
Okay, now let's pivot to Ruby on Rails.
Yeah.
Rails has been around a lot longer. It's often lauded for its whole convention over configuration philosophy, which historically has made it fantastic for rapid development of robust, database-driven web services.
Rails represents the mature, rapid prototyping ecosystem. While Next.js is sort of the bleeding edge, Rails is the tried and true workhorse for thousands of companies that need stability and speed in their initial deployment. The decision to support Rails signals that they are targeting established development teams who rely on this mature framework for stability, especially for applications that are heavy on database interaction or complex business logic.
And the most fascinating technical detail here is the mention of the PiSDK Rails engine. It says there's an external developer guide for it. This isn't just a simple integration. This suggests a really deep, modular integration approach.
The Rails engine detail is, for me, the crowning technical achievement of this whole section. For non-Rails developers out there, an engine is essentially a full, standalone Ruby on Rails application or module that can be seamlessly mounted into a larger host application.
A plug-and-play microservice.
That's a perfect way to put it. Think of it as a plug-and-play microservice.
So instead of a Rails developer having to manually create models and controllers and database migrations to handle payment status and verification, the engine handles all of that structural work internally.
Precisely. The developer doesn't spend 10 minutes writing custom code. They likely spend 10 minutes installing the engine, which is called a gem in the Ruby world, running a few setup commands, and maybe configuring a single initializer file. The engine pre-packages all the necessary payment logic, the API communication, the transaction logging model, the necessary routing to receive webhooks, and potentially even simple views for admin verification.
Wow, that is a massive efficiency boost compared to the usual pain points of manually integrating external services into a complex Rails architecture. I mean, you're talking about avoiding conflicts in the asset pipeline, ensuring secure route definitions, and avoiding the nightmare of custom controller logic to manage all those external service dependencies.
It removes that architectural headache entirely. The engine guarantees that the integration adheres to best practices within the Rails framework itself. This level of modularity shows extreme foresight and a deep understanding of the specific development environments they are targeting.
So they aren't offering a one-size-fits-all solution.
No, they're offering tailored, framework-specific abstraction.
So the overall takeaway for you, the learner, is clear. The network strategy is to minimize the effort barrier across the most valuable and diverse developer demographics. By supporting both the modern Next.js stack and the mature Rails ecosystem, alongside the global reach of React and JavaScript, they are ensuring that 10-minute promise is deliverable to the widest possible audience today.
They are essentially removing all technical excuses for avoiding integration. They understand that the developer's time is currency, and by providing a massive discount on that currency, they are investing directly in the rapid growth of utility. And this commitment to pragmatism is, at the end of the day, far more valuable than any abstract theoretical advancement in the core blockchain technology itself, at least in terms of immediate ecosystem growth.
This has been a really extensive journey into what, initially appeared to be just a simple technical release, but it's proved to be a powerful strategic accelerator for the Pi network ecosystem.
Yeah.
So let's just summarize the core insights we've uncovered for you.
Well, we analyze the aggressive and, I think, economically significant promise that under 10 minutes integration time, which fundamentally lowers the friction and the cognitive cost of building applications on the network. And that effectively creates an environment for what we called impulse development.
Then we did a detailed technical deep dive into the innovation that makes this time-saving possible. That strategic bundling of the Pi SDK, which manages front-end security and user experience, and the back-end APIs, which handles secure transaction processing and verification, which thereby eliminates the vast majority of those custom middleware coding headaches.
And finally, we connected this innovation directly to the strategic why. This move is a direct and forceful effort to realize Pi's long-term goal of fostering a utility-driven ecosystem, one filled with apps that are practical, usable, and ready for real-world adoption.
And competitive even with established centralized financial platforms.
Right.
So what does all this concentrated knowledge mean for you, the learner? For the average network user, it signals the strong likelihood of a much faster, higher quality expansion of applications that use Pi for genuine purchases and services. And for developers, it's an unprecedented opportunity to move from concept to a working prototype in record time. It lets them shift their focus and their resources entirely away from infrastructure plumbing and toward product refinement and user design.
And that leads perfectly to the final thought I want to leave you with, which connects right back to this theme of lowering the barrier to entry. If a network can reduce the most complex, the most security-critical part of application development payments to under 10 minutes, they are fundamentally altering the economics of development. And this rapid simplification doesn't just encourage new projects.
That's an excellent point. If the biggest roadblock is just removed, what are the next creative obstacles that developers will choose to tackle, knowing that the foundation is already built for them?
My provocative thought for you to consider is this. The true long-term impact of a tool this simple isn't going to be measured solely by how many new projects begin building in 2026. I think the real measure will be how many old projects, dormant ideas, prototypes that were shelved 2 years ago because the time and cost of payment integration were just prohibitive, are suddenly viable again.
Wow.
This 10-minute library has effectively wiped out the sunk cost fallacy for all of those abandoned projects. So what backlog of forgotten yet promising ideas might this radical simplicity unlock for the broader Pi community? That potential revival of dormant projects could be the source of the fastest, most unexpected growth the ecosystem sees.
The revival of the forgotten projects.
Yeah.
A fascinating angle on how efficiency can unlock latent creativity. Something for you all to mull over as you see these applications begin to emerge. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.